It's time to do Friday business. That's what we do on Business Incorporated. 55 minutes of going around the world of business. And here's what we have prepared for you today. In South Africa, there's a rate cut, 7.5%. That's why it's dropped by. And Zimbabwe is still counting trade deficit. Now it hits $2.1 billion. And Kenya Power Company is counting its profits, $9.9 billion for half-year profits. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ini John Mekwa. This is Business Incorporated on Channels Television. We'll start from the global space, where we tell you that gold prices hit a record high today and are set for a fifth consecutive weekly gain as investors are flocking to the safe haven market because of heightened U.S. tariff concerns and uncertainty around that, while awaiting a key inflation report that's due later on today for further direction. Look at the numbers at this time. We see spot gold is up 0.1% to $2,761.79 per ounce. U.S. gold is unchanged. Spot silver is in the red, 0.7%, $30.85. Platinum is unchanged at $952.49. Palladium is also down 0.5%. I guess the most interesting commodity that we see now, where it seems a lot of investors are taking solace in, is here at spot gold. That's why it's up 0.1% at $2,761.71. Perhaps the numbers will be out later, talking about inflation, and that will give more direction for that. Silver and platinum are poised for weekly gains, so our palladium is set for a loss this week. Now, in the oil space, oil prices are steady on Friday, but on course for a weekly decline as markets wait to see if President Donald Trump follows through on his threats. You know, that 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada that's supposed to start tomorrow, being the first day in the month of February. We'll see how that goes. But even ahead of that, we see markets and investors taking position and trying to hedge against whichever way it might go. So look at the numbers at this time. This morning, we had it at $77. But for this afternoon, after it dropped and gains and some movement, we see it has dropped to $76.95. While WTI is at $72. This was at about $73 this morning, but it's at $72.94 after it went down and up. And all the investors are contemplating the likelihood of United States tariff along a flurry of executive orders and policy announcement, and how that will affect not just Canada and Mexico, to which the 25% tariff is threatened at, but of course the all spilling effect to other parts of the world. Now, as Nigerians await the release of the rebased gross domestic product as the GDP and the consumer price index, the CPI data by the National Bureau of Statistics, were promised today. We haven't seen it. Perhaps we'll see it before the end of this program. The Nigerian Economic Summit Group, that's the NESG, is expressing confidence that the new set of indices will be more accurate in capturing the state of the economy, as well as measuring price movement. The head of research of the group, Dr. Joseph Ogebe, was a guest on Business Morning earlier today, says that the projection that the GDP will grow by 5.5% in 2025 will be adjusted after the release of the NBS.
Last time we rebased the CPI, so the current CPI base is 2019. 2009, that's far apart, so that doesn't give us a true representative of household consumption spending or our spending behavior, right? So now what the NBS is trying to do is to move the price reference period for 2009 forward to 2004. That gives us a more reflective price or more reflective perspective of our current consumption pattern. And I'm also optimistic on the CPI rebasing because it will also help moderate, the expectations on inflation. Currently, we see high inflation expectation also contributing to inflation. But with the rebased numbers, we are expecting a downward, a lower CPI compared to what we currently have. And with this will also serve as, give forward guidance to the monetary policy meetings in subsequent months.
Now, the European Union has launched a €300,000 three-year grant for Eurocham. Eurocham is the European Union Business Chamber of Commerce that's here in Nigeria. And they say it's to strengthen the secretariat, expand advocacy, and enhance external engagement for its members. This milestone, they say, is a significant step in deepening EU-Nigeria trade relations. The European Union is looking for ways to strengthen relationship and business ties in Nigeria. And one of the ways is through the European Business Chamber, simply called Eurocham. The EU considers mostly entrepreneurs in the private sector as its close allies. So just before everyone settles in business in 2025, they sit for talks on how 2024 was and how revenue and operations can be improved in 2025. They dig deep through a panel made up of business owners as well as policy makers.
So last year was tough. At the same time, we had pressure from our employees because they had to pay more for to come to work. They had to pay more to eat. They had to pay more to do the things that they used to do. It means that we have to pay them more to keep them and to prevent them from stealing.
The Chamber resolves to assist, among other ways, through funding as they launch a €300,000 three-year grant for Eurocham Nigeria Secretariat.
This is an agreement for the granting of a three-year grant by the European Union delegation to Eurocham of €300,000, basically to support the reinforcement of administrative capacities of Eurocham in order to enable it to better perform its tasks in terms of building the capacities of consultation and advocacy of the EU private sector in Nigeria and exchanging with the EU delegation and advising, I would say, the EU delegation and also exchanging with Nigerian federal authorities.
While this is applauded, they said they've been doing more through the alignment with the EU Global Gateway strategy.
The Global Gateway is indeed a massive initiative. Basically, it's about 300 billion euro in finance to be deployed mostly in Africa, but also in other developing countries in Latin America and Asia.
European Union representative in Nigeria says it is continuously working with both the public and private sectors in other areas, including transportation initiative, scaling up of commitment to digital skills, e-governance, among others.
My face to straight, back to straight face.
Now, the Nigerian Exchange Group has hosted the governor of Katsina State, Mr. Diko Umar Rada, at the exchange, marking a significant step towards advancing the state's economic vision through capital market opportunities. In his remarks, the Governor Rada, emphasized his administration's dedication to leveraging capital market instruments to drive economic growth and development. Governor Rada highlights his administration's focus on leveraging capital market instruments like Sukuk bonds, infrastructure bonds, and green bonds to fund important projects and attract investment, create job opportunities in his state.
All of us, hooray! For he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow. And so say all of us,
said capital market provide opportunity for investment, and it supports infrastructural development, it supports health sector and health, it also supports environmental friendly climate. That Katsina State has introduced so many policies that ensure that we have a buoyant economic growth in the state, and I want to assure you that Katsina State will continue to provide a veritable ground for investors so that we can have the necessary investment needed.
So there it was, a busy day at the NGX yesterday with the governor right there seeking opportunities to attract investors to his states. And talking about investors and revenue, the FIRS is very ambitious for this year. They overshot their target for 2024 and they think they can do better this year. So yesterday also they did set out their targets for 2025.
The executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service is leading staff of the agency to the 2025 Strategic Management Retreat. Primarily, the meeting reviewed the achievements of the service in 2024.
Last year, we had a deliberate strategy where we said we are not going to extend the filing deadline, neither are we going to do this automatic waiver of interest and penalty that taxpayers have now become used to, and that was affecting our performance. Now, we did not do that, and we still surpassed our targets convincingly. So we feel that that was a very good strategy. We did it in 2024. And I'm very confident in 2025 we will also do it again with active collaboration and the support of every staff.
Over the years, the meeting also reviewed the expectations for the 2025 fiscal year.
As we step confidently into 2025, we must carry forward the momentum of this achievement with renewed energy, a clear vision, and meticulously designed roadmap. This year, our focus will be on consolidating and institutionalizing our internal strength to ensure long-term resilience and operational excellence. This year, our mission is both ambitious and transformative, to build a service of excellence defined by the expertise of our people, the modernization of our facilities, and innovative use of technology.
Aside from revenue generation, other issues like revenue leakage and the tax reform bills were also discussed.
We are confident with the professionalism of our staff that we'll be able to achieve 25 trillion that we've committed. Blocking of leakages comes from having implementable laws, because where you see people going away with our revenue is because there are lapses in the law. And in the wisdom of Mr. President, we send a bill to National Assembly. Hopefully, the bill will be passed this quarter. So it is our strategy to block all identified loopholes and the use of technology.
Over the next 2 days, the retreat plans to discuss more strategies to achieve the 2025 corporate plan for the fiscal year.
And now let's see what's happening in the markets at this intraday. Look at the numbers, if we could have those numbers for intraday. We see that the NGX, that's Nigeria's stock market, is in the red at intraday, even though it's at 104,000. So it's down 0.13%. I wish we could have those numbers. That would be nice. That's the NGX is in the red at 0.13% at intraday. And then we see South Africa is on the flip side, 85,901.56. That's for South Africa. Egypt is closed, but closed positive for today, 0.40% at 30,010.62. While Nairobi closed from yesterday deeply in the red. A whole lot of loss we see there. Last I checked before now, it was 132. That was the all-share index, but now we see it's dropped to 128.48. It'll be interesting to find out what's driving that sentiment around the markets in Nairobi. But let's stay home and see what's happening at the fixed income space. We have Caleb Alimi, Chief Dealer, Providence Bank, joining us for this. We saw the result from the bond, federal government bond, and of course it was oversubscribed. I guess the market or people like Caleb are happy. Hi, Caleb. Good afternoon. Hello, Caleb. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Great. Yeah. So we saw the results, how much the federal government raised through with bonds. Quite successful, we might say, at least on the one hand. But generally, how would you say the market fared, the fixed income market fared in the month of January?
The month of January has been largely a little uncertain one. It started out with interest rates on the lower end, despite the fact that expectations were for interest rates to be elevated. We saw how the NTB, how the two auctions at the NTB space, dropped on the 1 year from 22.622 at the first auction on the 8th of January to 21.80 on the second auction on the 22nd of January. So we saw, like an 80 basis points move downwards on the NTB space for the primary market. The bond auction was also very successful. A lot of people had expected that we could probably see 23%. But I think the federal government was also still successful to raise, significant size, about 600 billion at around maximum rate of 22.6. We have a new 2035 bond, a new 10-year bond, the 22.6%, and that is the coupon for that bond, or bonds in this part of the world, in Nigeria, so to say. Largely, what we've seen, following from that is rates remaining at that level. The bond auction sort of like set a new level for bonds. So we see on the long end of the curve, investors are rather sticky and they're sticking out for, those high rates, 22.6, 22.58, 22.55 for the new 10-year paper. While on the treasury bill space, there's a lot of appetite on that space. And then we're seeing interest rates drop on that side, as seen in the auction where it's moved from 22.62 to 21.80%. So it's been a tale of two halves for two different instruments. The longer end, people expecting longer rates, and the shorter end, people sort of moderating their appetite or, reflecting that interest rates are sort of coming down in that space.
Yeah, so what's the expectation as we begin the second month in the year? We've seen the Fed holding rate, even though we saw South Africa, they cut their rates, and Canada and all of that. But, with all of the uncertainty, it seems most central bankers are looking the way of holding rates. I mean, we're having our meeting in February too, and a lot of people have said they're expecting rates to be held. So what's the expectation and how it will affect yields in the month of February?
Interestingly, the month of February will take a lot of direction from what the CBN does going forward. We're seeing a lot of stability around the exchange rate, and once we have that, then we should begin to see a bit of traction in inflation as well. Don't forget that from February, when the numbers for January will be reported for inflation is already being rebased, right? So it's being compared to 2024, which was high. So if it doesn't happen in January, February, March, it's probably happened from Q2, where inflation will not be as high as we saw in 2024. Based on that, we also think that our CBN, having achieved FX stability, will begin to look at stimulating growth. And to do that, it would have to probably bring interest rates down. So the first thing that would happen is going to be, we expect them to hold interest rates, which would communicate a dovish stance, which is what we expect. US Fed, like you mentioned, held rates. It was interpreted as a dovish stance. And, forward guidance, they're looking at two other cuts in the year. South African, the Central Bank of South Africa has already cut rates. And other central banks will be looking to cut rates. So we expect that the first move our own should make will be to hold rates and watch the traction that inflation gets, and then subsequently begin to look at cutting rates at probably the next meeting, not the meeting in the month of February. So in the month of February, we expect interest rates to moderate as we continue to look out for the particular body language or particular stance that the central bank is going to take. We expect it to be dovish, so we think that on the short end of the curve, we'll probably see rates begin to trim downwards. We expect inflation to begin to trim downwards, as the year progresses, and all of that will just begin to feed better into growth.
Yeah, but you see, we're expecting the rebase numbers, and I mean, word on the street is that inflation numbers that will be released will be reduced. Do we expect this to immediately feed into the direction of the MPC, which we know would also feed into yields, interest rates, and all?
Yes, we expect it to feed into the expectations, or into what the regulator will do, what the CBN will do. Why? Because they're looking at the statistics, they're looking at the numbers, and they're making interest rate policies based on the numbers they're seeing. And everything is feeding what they're doing. So yes, on the evidence of reduced inflation, we expect the central bank to continue to reduce rates or to continue to cut rates. We expect interest rates generally to just track downwards. Once there's a rebased inflation, lower inflation, that already tells them that their policies are working, and so they'll just continue to do more of what they're doing.
Yeah, but the conversation of with a reduced inflation number actually be speaking to the real inflation in the country, that's also on another side.
Oh yeah, that's a big conversation, but where economists will come in to argue will be that the numbers speak for themselves. Some people say numbers don't tell all of the story, but as far as statistics is concerned, numbers tell all of the story. So once there's that impact in the numbers, then there's validity to whatever policies they introduce.
Well, any idea where you see yields in the month of February, yield rates?
Yeah, like I said, for treasury bills, we expect yields to continue to track downwards. Like I mentioned, the previous NTB auction closed at 22.62. The next one closed at 21.8. We expect the next one to, track lower, maybe like a 21.50 or 21.40 or there, but we'll continue to see that, direction of rates sliding downwards. That's what we'll see.
All right.
That's what we expect to see.
All right, Caleb Alimi, thank you so much for your time. Chief Dealer with Providence Bank.
Thank you, Inik.
Now let's see other markets apart from Africa. I'll go to the Middle East. Dubai closed today at green 0.78%, 5,194.94. Abu Dhabi is slightly down 0.06% at 9,577.78. Saudi Arabia, that's the Tata War, closed also 0.19% at 12,415. 0.49. Qatar is also closed. These two markets do not trade on Fridays. That's Tadawul and Qatar. Qatar is also in the red, 0.13%. Then let's head to the United States. Dow Jones Futures receipts in the green. 0.28%, 45,183. S&P in the green. Nasdaq, the tech guys, in the green. I wonder if the impact of DeepSeek is out of the markets yet. So we see all of that in the green for the United States market. But let's see how Thursday's trade closed with our correspondent in Washington, Maria Bird.
The U.S. stock market had major wins on Thursday as mega-cap companies showed signs of early earnings, and investors are watching to see how Apple's earnings will turn out. The Dow Jones showed an upward swing of up at 0.4%, and the S&P 500 was up at 0.5%, and the heavy-tech Nasdaq up at 0.3%. Many investors are watching to see how the president's announcements will fare out on the U.S. stock market, even though there are signs and threats of potential tariffs of up to 25% on Mexico and Canada. The U.S. dollar showed some signs of a decline earlier in the day, but was able to recover and showed signs of strength and ended up the day flatlining. The U.S. stock market is showing some signs of recovery as investors are going to continue to watch through the end of the month.
Maria, everyone is certainly waiting for the announcement by President Donald Trump. I mean, tomorrow is just a couple of hours away. We'll see what happens with that tariff threat, 25% on Canada and Mexico. Now, let's look at the Asian markets. Close of trade today. We see the Nikkei 225 of Japan is in the green, 0.15%, 39,572. Kospi, South Korea, is On the flip side, deeply in the red, 0.77%, 2,517.37. The Hang Seng Index is on the flip side. And then Shanghai is down 3,250 after dropping 0.06%. And the Nifty of India is up more than 1%. I mean, this is a bit of relief for India because we've seen a whole lot of drop in this market. It dropped to about 22,000 most of this week. So this is perhaps investors taking profit. And so we see more than 1% in the green for Nifty 50 of India. Now, I guess that's how much we can take for the market. Let's take a break. When we come back on the other side of the program, we do have a conversation that should interest you. DeepSeek, ICT, AI. Do you have opportunities there? Does the profession have opportunities there? We'll talk about that here on Business Incorporated after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to watching Business Incorporated here on Channels Television, and let's have a conversation now about opportunities for product and motion designers in the ICT, AI, technology space. And we're having this conversation with a motion designer, Onyololuwa Adedoyin, joining us from our Abuja studio. Hi, Onyololuwa. Good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you.
So, I mean, DeepSeek is still in the news. AI seems to be leading conversations everywhere. But for individuals like motion designers, what is there? What are the opportunities for you in all of these conversations?
All right, thank you so much for that question. So, I would like to say that, the way people really consume information has changed over time, right? There was a time where everything we used to see about communication and technology is how things are being printed and put around, right? But nowadays, things have evolved now to we now using, devices, and everybody has like a TV, a laptop, and these are like the little ways in which product design, motion design has been able to come into technology, right? We've seen how things have evolved over time in the tech ecosystem, right? How people have been able to use tools to not only communicate, to also innovate things that are already been in the system before. So there are like wild opportunities for product design and motion design for anybody that is looking to get started as a Nigerian and as an African, right? Thank you.
Getting started should be a very big deal, because of the requirement, software, hardware, funding, and all of that. How does somebody even begin?
Yeah, so over time, getting started has become much easier now because there are like places and resources all over the internet where people can, get started with little or no resources, right? There are platforms where you can get courses for as low as 5,000 naira in product design, right? And what you just need to do is to commit to learning, devote and committing to learning this skill, right? So it is not as difficult to get started. I mean, the only tool that I would say you probably need is like your computer and your dedication to, spending time on it. Because the more you spend time into learning, the quicker it is for you to pick up this skill and make it as a monetization tool or as your own personal creative tool, right? So,
I guess you must first of all have interests, yeah?
Yeah, you need to have interest. That's very important.
So, looking at the world of technology, innovation, fintechs taking over, what specifically are those opportunities for investments, for jobs that are available? Looking at the Nigerian, typical scene, not what's going on outside the country.
Not on the global. Oh, yeah. So the opportunity in product design and motion design is wild, right? It's very wild. So previously when we'd go on websites, right, it is very basic. There's nothing to really hold you back. But with the new skilled people as Nigerian that we have like a lot of beautiful product designers. We've been able to do things and make user experience very, very easy for everybody, even to people that use like the low-end devices, which we know that a lot of populations of Nigeria use low-end devices for their, they have like users that use low-end devices to use their products, right? So the opportunity in this is that it has been able to create a revolution in how people communicate their things, right? Using motion graphics and graphics elements and making things much more coordinated towards how other people and users experience their platforms.
But how do all of this meet the motion designing, the animation? How do they meet in the ICT space?
So where motion design and product design intersects in the ICT spaces, it has been able to create opportunities for the citizens here, right? It's been able to, it's been able to be like an avenue where people learn this skill, and develop into new skills, like where they can use it and develop into a profitable skill for themselves, right?
All right, so what about, you did say that what you need, I think, first of all, is the interest, and then you need a computer. But the enlightenment, do you know where people can get enlightened? And also, when we talk about animation and all of that, it is beyond entertainment at this point.
Yeah, it is. So animation has gone beyond just entertainment and as a media arsenal. So people use it into tech. For example, the U-Lesson product, right? It is a technological product that, that teaches through the use of animations and user experience for kids. I don't know if you get me with that.
Yeah, I get you.
So technology has been used into, technology has been used into product design. I mean, use of product design and motion graphics can be in technology, in learning, can be in employment. It could, we've seen it even in vast and other applications across different industries.
So talking about the one in education, I mean, because I believe when you talk about animation, it's an interesting way to get the attention of the young ones. You have a message, you want to teach them something. But I'm wondering how it works. Do schools employ the services of animators or motion designers, or is it on a broader scale? How does it work, really?
Yeah, so the use of motion design and, animation with intersection of product design can be used in education. And I'm going to give you a very good example. We know sometimes educating kids can feel complex, right? And there is need for them to digesting in little bits, right? So use of motion design and animation, it's a very good way to communicate complex ideas into smaller bits of simpler informations, right? Which is going to make learning easy and very convenient for, young ones, even for those that are not interested in learning. So that's like a very good way it can be used in education.
So what about those who want to go into this, assuming there's a young boy or a young lady or a young man who's watching this program now? You had said that, what you need first, of course, is the interests. And then you also talked about you have to own a computer. How can you advise such a young person to wants to be a designer and animator? Where do they start from? What should they look out for?
Yeah, so for anybody looking to get started into tech as a product designer, as a motion designer, I would first advise, you take the due diligence to do your personal learning, right? You could always find a lot of resources, you could always find a lot of tutorials, but if you don't find time to devote to learning and knowing what this is about, you oftentimes see yourself, dropping off or losing interest at the end, right? So I would say you take your time to look at what it is and understand what it is. There are platforms like free courses on YouTube, right, where you can get bits of these informations. And there are like a lot of motion and product design schools in Nigeria where you could go in and, learn these things and be very good at it in a period of 6 to 1 year, right? Depending on how much you're able to devote your time into it. So for resources, I would say you start off with using free content like YouTube and follow. I mean, you need to, since it's your new interest you're trying to develop the skill with, I advise you to follow people on social media, people that are doing it well enough in Nigeria. Follow them, look at their thought process, look at their case studies, and look how you can integrate and learn from them. Feel free to comment on other people's creators' work and ask for their process to getting things done. So you learn by just getting started eventually, right? You can't just be on your own and say you want to learn. Just start and you'll figure it out.
Just go out there and start it and you figure it out. Well, that's not from me.
Yeah.
But what do you see as a trend in 2025? The AI, technology, ICT space is really busy.
Yeah.
Like you blink and you miss. That's what has happened with DeepSeek. What do you see as a trend this year?
Yeah, so for this year, I feel like there's going to be like a technical trend in how people use motion design on their websites, right? There's going to be a new trend of say less with words, but a lot with visuals. In terms of there are going to be micro interactions, there are going to be responsive websites where they are able to integrate sound into product design. They are going to integrate motion, micro interactions, and a lot of lofty animations, right? And you can get this done with tools like Rave. I mean, it's going to be like a very brilliant year with use of colors more too. So I really believe this year is going to be a very good year where we're going to get to see how motion is being used into product design.
All right.
It's something everybody should look forward to, actually.
All right, we'll be looking out for that. Oyinloluwa Adedoyin, product and motion designer. Thank you for sharing your time and perspective with us.
Thank you.
All right, now let's, talking about DeepSeek and all of that, let's head to Berlin. Wada Imran is standing by, and Italy in the EU is now the first country to block Chinese AI app DeepSeek for data protection reasons. That's what they said. And Europe has opted for a much cautionary approach to it, towards AI innovation. Could Italy's block lead to a domino effect, or what can we expect from other countries of the European Union? Can they do the same? Will they do the same? I wonder how. Hi, Wada. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. I wonder how much impact DeepSeek has had on you since all this buzz started.
Hi, Ini. Thanks for having me. I mean, the impact has not yet happened here. Italy is the only one that has yet blocked it. And it all started with Italy's regulator and data protection authority, Garante, and their announcement late yesterday that DeepSeek will not be accessible in Italy. The first reason they cited was a dissatisfaction with the AI company's response to an initial query about how personal data is collected, where it's stored, and if the users are notified of this. Now, the Italian regulator says, quote, the companies declare that because they do not operate in Italy, that European legislation does not apply to them. And so the AI app vanished from Apple and Google stores, and a new investigation has propped open. One question on everyone's minds that Italy openly asked was whether the storage of this data is in China. And not getting a clear response led to this obvious block.
Yeah, what I like the way you say it's vanished from the App Store. I wonder what else is going to happen, because the EU, they have AI laws before AI even really started. So what does this say about the futuristic approach or acceptance, adaptation of technologies after this?
Yeah, I like the way you phrased that, Ini, because you're right. Europe has legislation before it actually has the product or even the service. And that's what many here are debating. There are already so many things that a company developing AI in Europe would have to think about. And yet the same framework of restrictions isn't applicable to the US, where these cutting-edge technologies are being created and tested. Spanish company Armadeus, for example, conducted a recent survey that showed that generative AI, so this is the one that produces pictures, videos, and text. This is very popular in Spain. So there's definitely a big market. But if we look at the EU AI Act, which came out 2 years ago, so in 2023, it says, and I quote, AI systems in the EU should be safe, transparent, traceable, non-discriminatory, and environmentally friendly. Some of these are perhaps impossible to achieve right now. It's common knowledge that AI's carbon footprint is massive, and it requires a lot of energy for it to do its computational tasks. So there's still a long way to go before AI can be called environmentally friendly. So I'm not sure if Europe's approach will change given its list of demands that a technology that's still in its earlier phases.
Yeah, well, I hope there's no sentiment around this, maybe because of the originator of this DeepSeek, but we'll see in the coming days. But let's look at what's going on in the markets at this time, Wada.
Well, Ini, it's a good day for healthcare stocks here in Germany, with Swiss company Novartis really boosting that confidence and overshadowing any concerns about a slow recovery of healthcare stocks after the COVID-19 pandemic. The European stocks 600 was up 0.43% as we speak, and the German DAX was up 0.28%, all green. Of the companies in the DAX, Siemens tops with 3.5% raise. And industrial technology group Hexagon posted a pleasant rise in their Q4 in 2024 profit, which also boosted stocks. And of course, Dutch chip maker ASML continued its positive run with 3% gains today. Now, the ECB cutting its rates was a good signal and does shed light on the ECB and potential further cuts that could be coming up within the next meetings. Stubborn inflation and slow economies are still dragging down growth in Europe. Now, for data, German inflation numbers are out, and in 5 states in the country in January 2025, inflation did fall, which is leading to expectations of a decline this month as well. One thing that is nerving investors in Europe, though, is the fact that this weekend might bring about the first of the Trump tariffs. This will be to Mexico and Canada first. The EU is on the list of regions that tariffs could be applied to. So let's see. And that's all from Berlin today.
Yeah, well, obviously, everybody's looking out to the White House to see what exactly is going to start from tomorrow, which country is going to get hammered first with all of those tariffs. But thank you so much and have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Let's come to Africa now. Well, I wonder how those tariffs will hit us if President Trump decides to start tomorrow as promised. Let's start from South Africa, where they seem to be leading. The South African Reserve Bank cut interest rate by 25 basis points, and they're citing an upside risk to inflation outlook and bringing the benchmark repo to 7.5%, while the prime lending rate is at 11%. The widely expected decision was not unanimous. 2 of the central bank's 6 monetary policy committee members wanted to leave rates unchanged, while 4 supported a decrease, according to the governor who revealed this after that. And of course, as expected, there's been reactions following this rate cuts.
The Reserve Bank's decision to cut interest rates by a further 0.25 percentage point today was exactly in line with our long-standing forecasts, and it really reflects the benign inflation pressure that we're seeing currently, as well as the expectation that inflation should remain comfortably within the Reserve Bank's 3 to 6% target range, and indeed trend around the midpoint of this target range in the medium term. However, the Reserve Bank is clearly very concerned about the inflation forecast risks and cautioned against just assuming that there will at every MPC meeting be further interest rate cuts. The message from the Reserve Bank is that further cuts will likely depend on how these inflation risks unfold. That said, the interest rate cuts that we've seen so far and the likely future monetary policy relief will provide some support for the economy in the year ahead, and we expect notably stronger growth this year than last year.
Now, Zimbabwe's trade deficit has widened by 6%. It's now at $2.1 billion US. That is the number for 2024. It's driven by a surge in grain and fuel imports. This data is according to the Zimbabwe National Statistics Agency. Imports rose 4% to $9.5 billion, while exports stood at $7.4 billion, and that's up 3% compared to the same period in 2023. Zimbabwe imports a wide range of products, including machinery and mechanical appliances, raw materials, food products, fuels, minerals, textiles, clothing, footwear, electricity, chemicals, metals, and immediate products, among others. Now, according to the Statistics Agency, Zimbabwe's major trade destination in the period under review was South Africa, and then United Arab Emirates and China. Kenya Power and Lighting Company, KPLC, has recorded a significant increase in net profit to 9.9 billion Kenyan shillings. And this has happened in 6 months, ending in December 2024. It's gone up from 319 million in a similar period in 2023. This latest financial result shows that the electricity distributor registered a 5% growth in sales from 5.225 gigawatts to 5.507 gigawatts. The utility company attributed the rise in profit to stable Kenyan shilling against the United States dollar and other international currencies. Kenya Power also attributed the rise in electricity unit sales to higher consumption because of improved network reliability, connection of new customers, and improved outage resolution timelines. Egypt and Turkey are aiming to boost their trade volume to $15 billion by enhancing infrastructure and creating a favorable business environment for joint ventures and investment. This has been Al-Khatib. The two countries have signed many deals in some fields, including education, transportation, agriculture, industry, energy, health. And President Erdogan said that the trade and economy make up the driving force of Turkish-Egyptian cooperation. In 2023, the bilateral trade volume reached $6.9 billion, with Egypt's exports at $3.6 billion and imports from Turkey at $3.3 billion. All of this has been released by the Minister El-Khatib. Let's head to the crypto space now and see what's happening. I think from the corner of my eyes, I see very red, not very red, because they have some colors of green there. Should we say thankfully, Ethereum has been able to sustain the green color, as well as BNB. That's a stable coin, so that shows that perhaps it's not a very good time. But BTC has been hovering, moving 106,000, 105, 104. So we stay at 104 now. It's still the range that it's been. Solana is in the red, Cardano, Doge, and guess what? We do have the Trump meme coin right here. I think it's lost about $2 billion in 1 week. Oh, if you invested in there, I don't know how you're feeling now. Then they describe it as once celebrated as a financial embodiment of MAGA movement that has experienced a dramatic decline. Let's look at the headlines and follow this up. A substantial drop has seen the coin shedding $2 billion from its market cap in the first week. Well, I think a lot of people weren't, if you follow the market very well, weren't so surprised about it because they say, I think more than 60–70% of the capital is being held by President Trump, so you shouldn't have expected so much. There's also the AI, the DeepSeek is still in the news. AI crypto market dips as cost-efficient DeepSeek challenges giant. And you heard what I was talking there about what France has done. I mean, Italy, beg your pardon, they've blocked DeepSeek. So those negative sentiments and reactions seems to be creeping in, and that has led to a dip in the AI crypto market. It's lost 9.3% of its value in the past month, now stands about $44.82 billion. Investors, of course, are reacting to that DeepSeek and, you know, what the future may hold with that. Then we also have the United States Securities and Exchange Commission has approved a 19B for filing for Bitwise Bitcoin Exchange, Ethereum Exchange Traded Fund, the ETF. Has been cleared and then there's the Shiba Inu, the burn rate jumps. I think I'm seeing a lot of stories around burn rates these days. I mean, just a couple of hours before I came. So we see Shiba Inu has seen astronomical burn rate surge, resulting in the wiping out of over 1.1 billion SHIB tokens. I wonder how that will affect you. But let's talk to Rume now, and I think the hottest on that would be the Trump Memecoin. Hi, Rume. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Ini.
Yeah, I'm not sure you're part of those who is surprised that this coin is not doing so well. In a week, it's lost $2 billion.
All right. The truth is, I don't believe in the coin. It has no utility. That's what meme coins are. They've come to stay. In fact, I try my possible best not to really talk much about them because they are not solving any real-life problems. But with the fact that the President of the United States decided to go to that route, not minding the fact that he's a president and he believes that coming through that route is going to further lead to an adoption, I really don't think is going to be sustainable. It went to as high as $70, then came down. Then also the wife actually launched hers at some point. He thinks it's not a lot because I watched one of his interviews and he said that's not big money, you know. So I really don't think I expected a lot from Trump. A couple of persons actually jumped on it and make money from it, but I think it's like catching the falling knife. We all need to be careful, and there are better things to do in the industry than meme coins. So I really don't want to have our audience go towards the routes on meme coins because a whole lot of them have come and gone. And no one is talking about Safe Moon and the others for now because they've all gone. You know, because ordinarily, the way you hear people say crypto is scam, meme coins are usually the things they made reference to, not some of the big boys like Bitcoin, which is a store of value on a medium of exchange.
So what season are we in the crypto market now when we look at the movement around Bitcoin? Is this a hold season? Is it, I mean, I know the market might be showing greed, but what season are we at now?
No, so this cycle is kind of confusing. A couple of us saw it last year that it's going to be very, very confusing. Before now, after the halving, you see a few months after that the market is going to go all green, but now you're seeing the market go sideways sometimes, dump sometimes, you know. So right now, I think we are headed towards the middle of the bull run at this stage. Not a financial advice, because a couple of persons like to hear things like this and begin to make investment decisions on it. You know, I'm looking at a situation whereby as we go further, a couple of hands will be shaking out, a couple of retail will be shaking out because the way platforms like the ETFs, the various ETFs, are buying Bitcoin and all those cryptocurrencies, I think the volumes are no longer coming at like the way they used to. Also, MicroStrategy buying all the Bitcoin as well is no longer coming as I used to. So a couple of persons are trying to understand the global economic situations that we find ourselves now, right? To make certain decisions, not to just go in on all of this. Also in AI, you can see how the AI stuff has come in and actually disrupt. I mean, DeepSeek, disrupt a couple of things. NVIDIA chips now are appearing obviously, even though we said that a few times, that NVIDIA has been overpriced. So people are trying to reprice some of their things they bought before to see how far they get something that make more sense in terms of price than what they've actually make decisions to. So all of these put together is going to make investors become even cautious. If I'm going to spend $200 million on getting certain digital assets for long term, even though we've seen news like Elon Musk gaining about $600 million from Bitcoin held in their balance sheet, it's not enough to see that you could just jump in at the time where you should be waiting and buying at the lowest or maybe selling at the highest point.
All right, Rumen, thank you for that explanation. I'm sure a lot of people are also confused, the way the market is going, looking for what can be the next market mover. But thank you for sharing your perspective with us, Rumen Ofi.
Thank you very much, Amy. It was a pleasure.
You have a great weekend. So that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for being a part of it all through the week. Today, Friday. Tomorrow, we'll be watching at what comes out of the White House. Will that 25% tariff begin, trade tariff begin on Canada and Mexico? President Trump will tell us. But watch this space. Watch our YouTube channel for Business Morning and Business Incorporated, and you will not miss anything. We'll start the cycle again next week. I'm Ini John Mekwadu. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.